4, roger, roger. You're good, readable. It's just a lot of stations stepping on each other. Roger, you're good, readable. You witness.
What's going on, everyone? It's Sergeant First Class Ellis Noto with the Indiana National Guard back again with another edition of the Lima Charlie podcast. I am joined by my co-host, Sergeant First Class Robbie Schweitzer, and his boot. Today we have some very special guests from the Indiana Ceremonial Unit and Funeral Honors. We got Sergeant First Class Joshua Stevens, Sergeant First Class Emily McWilliams, and Staff Sergeant Ashley Cook. Thank you so much for coming on the Lima Charlie podcast. Tell us about yourself. What's your guys' MOSs and what do you guys do?
You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead, Sergeant Stevens.
So I currently I'm 11 Bravo. I'm the NCOIC for J1 Soldier Family Programs, which part of that is being the NCOIC for the Ceremonial Unit. That's my current job. Before that, I was a recruiter. Before that, I did a bunch of other stuff, but primarily right now we are focused on Ceremonial Unit stuff.
That's cool. How about yourself, Staff Sergeant McWilliams? What do you do?
Yeah, so I am out of the unit in Terre Haute, out of the 181st. I'm a full-time technician there. I work as an IT specialist, working with our mission. Currently, I'm on orders right now, so I'm kind of like on a weird schedule, but I work our mission completely now, and then I'll go back technician side next year. But I currently volunteer for our base honor guard with whatever events we have.
And what's your MOS? I might have missed it. In the Air Guard, what do you do?
I'm a 1D, so just like client systems, more computer-based IT
Like
specialist.
IT?
Yep.
That's pretty cool. And Staff Sergeant Cook, what do you do in the Army National Guard?
So I am an 88 Mike.
Truck driver?
So I'm a truck driver, but I am also the UCC for the 1438th. I'm a technician down in the J1 Med, and I am the color guard NCOIC with the Ceremonial Unit.
So you're pretty diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Background.
do
Yeah,
a little bit of
Absolutely.
everything.
Awesome.
Well, it sounds like you guys all have, very kind of like Sergeant First Class Schweitzer said, you all have very different jobs, but you all found yourself here in the Funeral Honors and Ceremonial Unit. Can you tell us, what is that? What does that mean to be in the Ceremonial Unit or the Funeral Honors, and what's the history of that?
Do you want to talk about Ceremonial Unit first or Military Funeral Honors?
We
either
can
one
talk
doesn't matter.
about military funeral honors first.
Okay. You want to?
Sure. So military funeral honors is a federal program, and it is mandated that we have service members in the state that are able to go out and perform funerals. Typically it's a 2-man team, but you can also have a full honors where you have 8-man team, or you can have the plainside service where you're actually bringing home deceased service members from out of state.
Oh, wow.
Or like we just had one from Korea that just got brought back home.
Yep.
But it is a federal program that we have to have in order to take care of the service members.
That's so cool. And I know actually Sergeant Stevens and I had spoke about that last week about the what was that gentleman's name that we just brought back? That
Sergeant Charles Garrigus.
Sergeant Charles Garrigus, and that is that American hero, and that we had the opportunity here as National Guardsmen to render. What was the phrase you used at the airport?
What?
Well, the dignified transfer.
Plainside honors, dignified transfer. Yeah.
That's very, very cool. Now, is that more of a funeral honors thing or more of a ceremonial unit thing?
Funeral honors.
But you also deal with ceremonial
on
unit.
On top of our state, essentially, we just military funeral honors just did a plainside honors last night.
Wow.
And then they had to actually drive to Illinois
to
with the family to make sure that everything was escorted back, like Urbana, Illinois, or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, it was. So it's a weekly thing with military funeral honors. They average about 250 funerals a month throughout the state. So that's a big workload. That's a 14 person. They used to have 21, now down to 14 just because of funding and everything like that. But they still almost every month they do zero turnbacks, which basically means that they're not turning any funerals back because we get a lot of requests. And unfortunately, if we don't have enough people, traditionally and ADOS, then we have to turn some funerals back. And we obviously don't want to do that. We want to try to complete every funeral that we get assigned, but sometimes we just don't have the people.
This is an opportunity for someone to potentially volunteer to be on that team, right?
So military funeral honors, and we can jump into ceremonial unit after that, but the funeral honors portion they actually will pay you to do funerals. So there's opportunities with traditional soldiers, those M-Day soldiers, that if they want to do funerals, and it's kind of like an a la carte thing, right? Like if they're in college and they want to just do funerals on Tuesdays and Thursdays or Saturdays, they can do that. And then we have to have opportunities for ADOS. Right now they're full, but there is turnover in ADOS because we have deployments and then soldiers moving on to tech jobs or AGR jobs. There's always spots that are going to be coming open. Since I've been in this job, we've had probably 6 or 7 openings that have been filled pretty much immediately. But there's a lot of good things. You want to talk about for funeral honors, like the training and like people don't just show up, so we actually have to do that training portion.
Yeah, so the training for military funeral honors, there's a 40-hour course that soldiers are supposed to go through. And typically they do it down at Tyndall. There's also an 80-hour course that soldiers can go through at PEC. And then we try to do 1 or 2 training days throughout the month. Onesie twosies can come in and train with the ADOS soldiers. I know that at my unit, I've done a couple of training days on drill status because when I was running the Indy team a couple of years ago, we didn't have enough soldiers to go out and handle some of the services that we needed to get done. So I actually took a couple of my soldiers from my drill unit and I took them out to take care of a service. Because we needed more people out there. And it was a good way to show them kind of more of what they're looking at as far as, hey, this is what military funeral honors is. This is what you would be doing if you volunteered. It was a hands-on way of being able to get them out there and showing them this really does mean something. And they can see how it affects the family also. So that was kind of one of the ways that I used as a recruiting tool also. But the training events, they can get a little tiring because you're carrying caskets, you're doing firing party, you're moving. I mean, some of these caskets can weigh 600 pounds. Like, they are not light, and they're on weird terrain most of the time. So you got to be able to move those caskets from point A to point B, and it can be a walk. Like, it's not usually a short little, hey, we're going to take it from this hearse, walk 100 yards and drop the casket. It's typically pretty far back in the cemetery where you're going. So the training events, we try to make it as realistic as possible. I know a couple of times we've gone out to Washington Park East even and actually done some, the one that I remember we did a horse service. One of our horses had passed away from the caisson. And we went ahead and did the burial for the horse. And that was our training event. So we put the whole ceremonial unit together and we had some of the military funeral honors guys there as well as the training event. So it was like a group effort for it.
Yeah. Some of the other things about military funeral honors, we try to make it as accommodating as possible because we know everybody has different schedules. So we'll put out training dates, and then if they can't make it, there's always other times where we can do training. And on top of that, one of the biggest things we've noticed, and you guys have experienced this as well, is when soldiers are coming back from AIT, what uniform do they have? They have, most likely they have those pinks and greens, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And most of the funerals we conduct are in ASUs. So that's kind of another opportunity for them is we will buy their ASUs. We have a bunch of ASUs that are specifically for military funeral honors and ceremonial unit.
So the expectation isn't going to be on them to go and get a whole nother
we're not gonna make them buy.
Gotcha.
I mean, we have the shoes, the hats, we have everything. The jacket is the only thing that's kind of up in the air because right now we only have like size 36 to like 50. So like in between, which is most everybody, we don't have those sizes. We're ordering them, but there's a backup in the system right now. So we're getting them in, but we've never had, since I've been there, we've never had anybody have to pay out of their own pocket for extra shirts or jackets or any stuff like that. We do some funerals and pinks and greens, but most of the stuff we conduct is going to be an ASU.
Gotcha. So you mentioned a 40-hour training course, but then you also talked about training days. Are those training days separate from that 40? Like, are they sustainment training? Is there so much training that somebody that's with funeral honors is expected to do through a period of time on top of that 40 hours?
So we would like to have soldiers that come in and do training at least like once a month. But realistically, once you do that 40-hour training, it's kind of just up in the air if you can find the time to come in, or even if the area coordinator can find the time to set up a training day. I know there are plenty of people that have gone through the 40-hour course and then have never done a training day again because the timing just doesn't work out. But they're consistently doing funerals.
So they're still kind of
keeping it. And so, yeah, I mean, as long as you're still going out and performing the funerals at a consistent pace, then for the most part, like, we're not going to be like, hey, you need to come in and knock out so many training days in order to get you back out there.
Gotcha.
Now, if you had taken like a 2 or 3 year break, they may want to have you come in for a day before they send you back out on services. But again, it's kind of up to the area coordinator as to what they would expect from you on the training piece.
Gotcha. Sergeant Stevens, will you tell us a little bit about the ceremonial unit?
Yeah, so my experience is right out the gate. I've been in the Army 22 years. I think probably 4 years ago was the first time I heard that we actually had horses. So there wasn't a lot of the ceremony has been this thing for a really long time, but I just didn't know anything about it. I was never in a position where I was asked to do it or any stuff like that. So when I came to here and I was kind of like, wait, we do this, we do this, we do this, and then I slowly started to find out like all these things that we do. It's like a whole gambit of everything. So when you say ceremonial unit, we don't just say military funeral honors. Yes, we do conduct funerals for Indiana Guard retirees, AGR, stuff like that. But there's a lot of other things. The best way to basically describe it example-wise would be May activities. So if you're the Indiana Army National Guard or Indiana National Guard, most everybody knows what May activities is because we have 10 events over that whole month of May, including building up to the Memorial Day service, Indy 500, and then another Memorial Day service afterwards. There's a lot of stuff that we do. So things included in that would be the color guards. Right. So mini marathon, the Grand Prix, Memorial Day service, and there's a bunch of stuff that we do. All the things. On top of that, we do color guards for all the Colts games. Sometimes we do. You guys kind of typically handle the what's the hockey team? I don't know
the Indy Fuel.
The fuel.
Yeah.
The fuel. Typically, the recruiting handles that, but we sometimes will provide equipment and stuff like that. Any color guard opportunities? We just did the national championship game last year that was here for NCAA. That was a pretty cool opportunity. We do, like I said, we do funerals, but also we do bigger funerals, such as like, let's just say a GO passes away. So typically those things, we're talking about salute battery, we're talking about case on our horses, we're talking about utilizing all the things that we have for those specific funerals. And obviously a higher ranking individual is going to have a little more
pizzazz,
a little more things afforded to them at their funeral than a 4-year soldier. You know, a soldier that's been in 4 years and did their 4 years and got out, or 6 years or whatever. And then we also have the music section. So we have a lot of singing engagements where people request national anthems and stuff like that. And then we actually have chaplain services as well. So those are, if an event comes up that requests a singer, a chaplain, we'll put the requests out. And then if we get them, we get them. Sometimes we have to come back and say, hey, send out multiple requests and say, hey, please help us. There's been this thing where 15 years ago, 10 years ago, there was a ton of people in the ceremony unit. I think it was like 300 strong. Since I've been here, and I think before Sergeant First Class Swizzler was here, we haven't had a lot of volunteerism. And I hate to use the ever since COVID thing, but really it's the culture's changed. So we're trying new ways to do recruiting with that. We've had a lot of luck with younger soldiers at the RSDs. I wouldn't say that soldiers that have been in 6 years or more have a saltier taste in their mouth, but some of the younger soldiers, they have that fire. They want to come and do.
They still have that enthusiasm from being around.
They want to come to the Colts games. They want to do the Indy 500 stuff. They want to do funerals. Those are some of the things that we do for ceremony unit. And the biggest takeaway with that, and the hardest selling point, honestly, is mostly it's all volunteer. So we do have AGRs and technicians that will come up to do missions and stuff like that. But a lot of the people we get are through military funeral honors right now because they are being paid in funeral capacity, like the ADOS. But we cannot pay them for the ceremonial stuff. They're kind of like the reward on that portion. Besides the retirement points is like Colts tickets or
I mean, like
tickets.
if you do a game or
itself,
something, like you get a +1, or even like Indy 500, like most likely you get a +1. So there are benefits, definitely incentives
there's a
with
lot
it
of
as well.
but
So not necessarily financial incentive, but other tangible benefits that you
absolutely.
can. Gotcha.
Yes. We can't pay them to do stuff. I get the question a lot when we talk to the younger soldiers. Can I get every funeral I do? Can I get paid for that? Can I do like 5 funerals in a day? And I'm like, that's illegal because you can't do that. So you get paid for one day for the funeral honors portion. You get paid for one day.
So you both had mentioned recruiting efforts to get people to come be part of both funeral honors, ceremonial unit, one or the other. However, so people listening, sounds interesting to them. How do they get started in the volunteer process? Is there an application? Do they reach out directly to you? Do they coordinate it through their unit? What's that look like?
So the process, I will tell you before we jump into that. So part of that recruiting effort is we are creating stand-up banners, and there's 6 of them out there right now. One's at the schoolhouse, one's in front of this building. I think there's one at JCA, one at 76th Brigade.
There's a division, or there's
at
one at division.
At division, there's a banner that basically says military funeral honors. On the bottom right, there's actually a ceremonial unit tab. So the contact information is on there. It would go to military funeral honors first, but if you put in the email or requested, hey, I would like to talk about ceremony as well, then they'll put them in touch with me. We are creating more banners. So a total of 124 62 armories throughout the state. We're going to put one in every single armory.
That's awesome.
To get more volunteerism. We're trying to get back to where we were. And we're starting somewhere, but it's I don't know if you've experienced it in recruiting, but it's hard to, it's a different world.
And these volunteers you're talking about, these are your traditional 1 week in a month soldiers, right?
It can be the traditional 1 week in a month. It could be AGRs. It could be technicians. That would be pretty much it. But
and you kind of touched on it earlier, but are there any full-time opportunities in the program? I think you're a tech, right? You're tech and you're AGR, and I'm assuming you're AGR as well, Sergeant. But are you the only AGR person in a side
I'm
of the
the
unit?
only AGR person in Tyndall Armory, actually.
Okay.
That's where we're located. So I'm the one AGR that's kind of over most of the other positions like military and funeral honors, and those are either technician or ADOS positions.
Cool.
Yeah,
So,
the Air National Guard's a little bit different. We obviously are all volunteer based as well, but if you're like a full-time technician per se, like on base, you can like put in for, I believe it's some sort of day where you get paid for half of a drill day. So we can get paid for it if we want to. When I was a technician, now that I'm on orders, I don't. But when I got paid for every detail that I wanted to do. It kind of like took place of my drill day. And then also you can get like a GOV and you don't have to pay for gas. So there's also like benefits on our end, I guess. But I don't think you guys get those benefits on the RB end, I don't think.
We don't really give them GSAs or anything like that. But
Yeah. The Air Force is...
Our full-time staff they utilize GSAs for funerals, but we don't just we can't do that. So that would be frowned upon.
I know for the most part, like a lot of units, even though there is a tag memo out there stating that if a funeral is short notice and someone is a part of the ceremonial unit or military funeral honors, that they are supposed to be able to go out and participate in these services. There are a lot of units that give pushback. So that is sometimes an issue that soldiers will come into, because of course the unit wants them to be drilling with them, but you also have the tag memo. So it's kind of one of those, like, which one's more important?
Yeah, usually I'll have that. We have the word's getting out, so our higher up staff are total support of making sure we conduct these funerals and make sure they're not turned back. So usually it's me having a conversation with the readiness NCO saying,
Sure.
"Hey, this is me. Nice to meet you." And then we say, "Hey, can you please let this person off for this 4-hour block?" And then if they say no, then I'll say, "Please." And then if not, we'll call, and then we'll get a memo put together, and then typically they'll be excused for that because we're not asking them. It's not like they're getting off for a wedding or something like that. They're doing a military portion of service. So it's not like
a
trying to get
critically
them.
important service.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
not trying to get them out just to get them out. They're actually doing a specific role.
They're only for a portion of a day.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah.
And I'm very clear with the readiness NCO. I was like, hey, we're not asking for the entire day. We're asking for, a 4-hour block. Make sure they can get there safely and then get back to drill.
There are some that take all day, though.
Yeah, there's some.
There
sometimes
are some that will take
yeah,
all
there's
day.
some funerals that are. Funerals that are in South Bend, and the unit is drilling in Indianapolis, and sometimes they have to take a whole day off.
I just did that funeral for now retired Major Whitecotton, and that took an hour. And you guys had spoke about pay earlier, and I will say, obviously, I didn't get paid any extra for that, but having the opportunity to serve someone who has served their entire, gave so much of their life to our country and community that was critically important to me, and that really was the motivator for me, just the opportunity to give back.
And that honestly, that's actually a great example because, we came to recruiting and asked them, hey, can we get some volunteers? And you guys came and we put on training at Tyndall. And what was your impression of that? Honestly, I mean,
it was, quick, fast, in a hurry, but it was effective. And, in that few hours of training, I learned a lot. So I know the 40-hour and the 80-hour course to be a lot more, but it was definitely an honor to be able to serve someone who has served so much of their life for our country and community.
So when you were talking about the ceremonial unit, you mentioned the variety of activities that you're involved in. So I assume that you have different teams that handle different aspects. So what are they? What do they do? What are their roles?
So technically there's 8 teams.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a lot.
Some of the teams are smaller than others. Color Guard, Sergeant Cook is the NCOIC for Color Guard. The firing party, Staff Sergeant Zachary Hicks is actually the NCOIC now for the firing party. We have Salute Battery. Sergeant Murphy currently is the NCOIC for that. Salute Battery, typically we do those for the big GO funerals. A new thing we started last year was, and it used to be a thing years ago, probably before I was even born, but they used to fire a cannon off at 6 o'clock in the morning on the day of the Indy 500 to basically signify the race, today's race day. Well, we brought that back last year. And we actually positioned 4 cannons on each 4 corners of the track. And during the national anthem, bombs bursting in air, they all fired off at the same time.
Really?
So that went over really well.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue to do that for all the future, essentially.
Make sure you call us for that, okay?
You're there anyways working. You're like there on turn 4 or something like that.
Recruiting.
And then we have Case on. Everybody loves the horses. So we have a great team. The horses live better than we do. They live down in a horse stable down in Columbus, run by a very nice family. They are awesome. They take great care of our horses. Those are actually state property as opposed to, they're not federal property. It's literally a state entity. So we kind of have a weird thing with the horses are state property. We have equipment that's for the horses that are state property, but a lot of the other stuff is like federal property. So, but the horses specifically, so I usually have to go get funding from the state armory board to make sure those horses are taken care of. But they have no problem; they love those horses.
And they outrank all of us.
Yeah, all the horses usually. So we have 8 right now. We're getting to the point where there might be a couple that are going to have to be retired eventually, and that doesn't mean we send them to pasture. Like they they get retired and then we buy new horses. So it's not nothing morbid there.
They go to an actual pasture. That's not a metaphor.
Yes, not
Okay.
a metaphor.
You're
not a
not-
metaphor for
They usually
that.
go to a good home that's usually like
Yep.
someone within the ceremonial unit.
Gotcha.
takes
Okay,
them.
that's pretty cool.
And then we do have to do a funeral for. We just had a horse that just passed away, so we have to do a funeral for that horse.
Yeah.
So that's going to be in plans.
What rank are they? Because you said that they outrank all of you.
I mean, so a lot of these horses, like they can be mass sergeant.
Okay.
that's true.
So is it similar to like a military working dog where they're one rank above their handler, or is it just they actually have a static rank?
They actually have a static rank.
Oh wow, okay.
Like they actually have rank and they get awards and
Yeah.
You get track
yeah,
here?
like
They get track here.
They do have a lot of vet bills. They're big horses, so
they probably should have TRICARE.
yeah, they a lot of the times we use University of Kentucky for a lot of the stuff we do. They're world renowned for like their equestrian vet care. So they, like I said, they live better than we
Right,
do.
right.
They live great down there. The other sections is protocol. So that's typically wreath lane and escorts for funerals, and those are typically like warrant officers and officers that'll do protocol. Music section. The music section kind of does their own thing. They do a lot more events than we do anyways when it comes to like the weekends. So the Memorial Day service and stuff like that, they will play for that. They will play for the joint enlistment ceremony, stuff like that. Am I missing one? Chaplain. I think I didn't. The chaplain. I say the chaplain team, but it's usually there's like one or two that will typically come to the events. The younger chaplains, the chaplain assistants, they will come and kind of like shadow Chaplain Pop or Chaplain Lasher. But for the most part, it's those two and a couple others that do a lot of the events that we go to.
You forgot casket also.
Casket, my bad. Well, you already talked about casket, so I
we kind of
forgot.
touched on it.
I know.
I forgot about
I know.
it. Sergeant First Class Wall. He's the casket NCOIC. He'll be retiring soon, so I know but he'll probably honestly still be part of
Probably.
CU because he loves it so much.
Yeah.
He's been overly supportive of everything since I've been here. So
He works over a division, and
he does.
every time
I
see
don't
him,
know
he
if you
gives
know where
me
that's at, but
he gives me an
it's
update
across
on
the
when he's
street.
retiring. So.
yeah.
It's good to be close.
Yep.
So the Army Guard has kind of led this conversation. I'll give the Air Guard real quick. So how is the Air Guard, Honor Guard different from the Army side of it?
We're a little bit different, but one and the same pretty much. Obviously, we're out of Terre Haute. We work with the 122nd as well. So we kind of just pick up details that they need our help on up here for the Army National Guard. And then they're back in Terre Haute. We pretty much just work on details like Indy side, Terre Haute, mostly like Colts games, fuel games, stuff like that with a ceremonial unit as well. But it's pretty much one and the same. We're really all together.
That's cool. Well, and so I have to ask this, and Sergeant Stevens had brought up the pop-ups and how to get involved on the Army Guard side. Is it the same for the Air Guard? If I'm a member of the Air Guard listening right now, if there's a member, how would they get involved in the ceremonial unit?
Yeah, so you have to be a member of our base honor guard first. There's an interview process. There's, I think, an application you have to fill out, go through your interview process, and then once you're selected, then we have monthly practices with our Joe Weekend. So we go through those, and then after that, if the ceremonial unit needs help, that's where we pretty much just volunteer for those services up here.
That's very cool.
So, to kind of bring it back to ceremonial and funeral honors, you'd mentioned information as to how to get in contact with you. Air Guard does an interview. What special requirements do you guys have to be part of ceremonial funeral honors on our side?
So at one point back in the day, there used to be interviews, and I think eventually we'll get back to that. But right now we've been kind of I've been doing interviews. You've been doing interviews with people. basically making
I mean, I kind of just
making
like, if
sure their
someone
uniform
co-
fits
yeah.
properly.
That's
Let's put it that way.
important.
And
I kind of, once someone comes to me and says, "Hey,
Yep.
I want to join the color guard," or if they say that they want to join a different section, I get in contact with the other NCOIC or OIC, because like Cason, their OIC is Chaplain Lasher.
Yep.
And so I'll get in contact with her and shoot her their information, and then I just add them to my email roster at that point. It's kind of very informal right now.
right now, yeah, we've had a couple meetings. Like I said, since COVID and everything, we've just been pretty impersonal about everything, and
Yeah.
we want to get back to doing the proper interviews and making sure. But beggars can't be choosers right now. Let's just be honest. I mean, we are wanting people. Another thing that my biggest thing for military funeral honors and ceremony unit specifically is I tell younger soldiers that you will get a set of dress blues. You get those ASUs, but I don't want you, if you're not gonna come and do events for us and conduct funerals, we're not gonna just give you a set of blues so you can hit the road. That's a $800-900 set of uniform that we're just not gonna just give you to you. You have to come to the training. You have to actually show up to it for events. To show you're specifically reliable before we actually give you that stuff.
So would it be fair to say that for you the special requirement of doing the CU, the funeral honors, would be a desire to show up and participate?
Yeah, I always say that the hardest part of getting to work now is just showing up.
Right.
Like it used to be, you're supposed to be at work and but now it's like, can you come to work? And when you're at work, can you care? That's the sad thing.
Right.
Honestly, it is.
It's
but if I usually we'll get text or I will get called, and then I will ask them for a good email. Then I will send an application. They will fill out the application. On the application, it says what part do you want to be? Do you want to be casket? Do you want to be firing party? Whatever. And then we'll go from there. I'll usually do an interview with them and then get it kind of warm and fuzzy if actually they are serious about it, if they're not. And then, but I said, like before, a lot of our members currently are military funeral honors people.
Gotcha.
Because they are there every single day. And we will ask for volunteers. Like sometimes we get random color guards at like 7:00 in the morning for a convention downtown.
Oh goodness.
And to ask a traditional soldier who doesn't work for us full time, hey, can you come down here at 6:30 in the morning and show up for a color guard? It's hard for them. Honestly, sometimes that's a hard sell. But if I have ADOS individuals that are wanting to do that, we can, they're usually pretty open to that.
So we spoke about this a moment ago. What is the impact on the veterans if the funeral honors and ceremony unit does not receive enough volunteers?
Essentially, what we said in the beginning was we have to turn the funeral back, and we never want to do that.
Of course not.
We went the current NCOIC of military funeral honors and the former one. They're both awesome, and they almost essentially set a standard where they were almost to zero turnbacks. That few months they were at zero turnbacks, and that may not mean anything to you, but it's pretty difficult to accomplish.
Yeah.
The last time it was accomplished was like over 11 years ago, when they were being consistently zero turnbacks, and now they're kind of at that point where they're there again. Like I said, the former and the current, they're both awesome. So we don't want to do the turnbacks.
Of course not. Yeah.
It's specifically the Indiana Army National Guard soldiers and the retirees. They're not going to be turned back.
Mm-hmm.
That is what it is. Like we're going to make sure that they are taken care of. So we don't like to choose, but I'm sorry, we are going to take care of an Indiana National Guard soldier before we will, if we have to choose between like that and a reservist that maybe served like 4 years.
And that's not to say that
Perfect world, we want to do both,
right.
But
I'm assuming there's federal teams from the active components that can assist with that.
Yep.
But our priority here in the Indiana National Guard is Indiana Guardsmen.
So when Congressman Wlowski passed away,
Yeah.
the old guard came in from
Yep.
D.C. to conduct the funeral. However, our horses were utilized for that service. So I think they did a couple other. The CU actually helped in a couple other aspects of that, but they primarily took care of the funeral services. They used our horses.
Gotcha.
So
knowing that you do the services,
Yep.
How would you say that the funeral honors and CU have made a difference in the lives of veterans and their families, as far as the things that you're involved in with them?
I think if once you have the opportunity to participate and volunteer for these details, you see, these veterans that you're in front of, or these families, and you can see how much they appreciate us being there. And even just talking with them, I've had multiple families come up to me, or just veterans, and just want to know what we do, or what our job is back at home, and just they're genuinely interested, and they really appreciate us being there, honoring those who have fallen and those who are still serving. And it's a really special thing to be a part of, for sure.
That's a great way you put that. And I know we've talked about, the 4-year soldier, or the the general officer. And, we remember that at one point in time, these individuals all rose their right hand and,
Absolutely,
and,
they all
and wrote a
volunteered.
check, up into including the cost of their life, right?
Yep.
A blank check.
Yep.
And as guardsmen, as traditional 1 week in a month reservists here, I think it's even more moving for us to be able to be involved in these, because we have our full-time careers. A lot of us have full-time jobs outside of this, and we are going to don that uniform to honor that person that may have served 5 years ago, may have served 60 years ago. And like you had said, Staff Sergeant, I'm sure that the families really appreciate it. Could you guys share some stories, maybe without divulging too many personal details, of something that you remember from your time with funeral honors or ceremonial unit?
So the most recent for me, the most recent thing you mentioned earlier was the repatriation, essentially. Do you know what repatriation is, or do you want me to just kind of explain?
Yeah, if you explain to our
So
listeners.
repatriation is essentially
And no,
bringing
he
the,
doesn't know.
yeah, no, maybe he doesn't know. But the essentially we're returning a fallen soldier who was killed in action from a past time. So we have a couple more coming up, but the one we just conducted, he was killed in Korea in December 1st, 1950, and he was missing in action, killed in action for over 72 years.
Wow.
So when Trump made a deal with Kim Jong-un, is that I can't remember the leader of North Korea. There was
Korea.
North Korea, right?
Yeah.
Kim Jong-un, is that his name?
Yeah, I don't know his name.
Well,
It's okay. We're not
The
a
leader-
geopolitical
That's why I said
podcast.
just North
the
Korea.
leader of North Korea. There was a thing called K-55. There was 55 boxes of remains from the Korean War, and a lot of people will tell you the Korean War is the forgotten war because we talk
agree,
about
yeah.
the World War II. We talk about World War II a lot. There's been movies made about it, and there's been a bunch of movies made about Vietnam. But there was that one that happened in the middle that was kind of a big deal, and we have a lot of fallen soldiers that are still missing in action. Well, they found his remains. They identified him through DNA of family members that are still living here in Indianapolis. And they actually just lived down the road, right down the road off of Man Road. He was from Terre Haute. Like I said, his living brother is still alive.
Oh,
We
wow.
notified the family. They were notified in, I believe, November. And then I was actually the casualty assistance officer for that one. So I met with the family. And the entire time, they've just been overly gracious with everything. I'm thanking them for what their brother and their grandfather
Their relative,
did.
yeah.
What he did. I mean, he was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross,
Wow.
which is right below the Medal of Honor. So I've never even seen one in person. So when they actually sent it to me, the joke was, "Hey, Sergeant Stevens, you can just give that to the family." I'm like, I'm not giving the family anything. We'll ask this upstairs and see who wants to present that award. But we conducted the funeral. We utilized our caisson firing party. The whole time. I mean, there was, by the end of it, the family was crying. They were just so happy that we were there, and they couldn't imagine like that we would give up our time to do this. And I'm like, we don't wear name tags. There used to be a time where C used to wear name tags, but I've kind of nixed that. Like, we don't wear name tags anymore because I always tell people it's never going to be about us.
No, of course not.
The job we do, it's not about us. It's not about you looking sharp in your uniform. It's about taking care of the family and taking care of their needs. So,
Military funeral honors doesn't wear name tags.
yeah,
Just
That's
they've never worn
Yeah.
name tags.
well, again, it speaks to us honoring those who have,
Yep.
served with us or served before us, and honoring that veteran and their family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The standard is still the same though. Like I said,
Yeah.
we talk about the 4-year soldier. I mean, like I said, they all rose to the right hand.
Right.
There's not like a lesser flagfold or
Right.
a lesser firing party. They're still going to get those portions of the funeral that's afforded to them. Okay, we're not going to be able to send the B
Right.
team. They're all going to get they're all going to get the same standard.
Right.
And it really like humbles you as a member of the honor guard or a member of this ceremonial unit. I'm full time. I know a lot of you guys are full time as well, but we put on this uniform every day, and a lot of the times it's taken for granted.
Absolutely.
Like we put this on every day and we go to work. But like when you're a part of something bigger than that, and you're honoring those that are serving with you or those that have fallen, it really puts into perspective. Like I am a part of something way bigger than just putting on my uniform every morning, and that makes it really special and something like I don't know why I wouldn't see myself not ever being in base honor guard. Like I love it. That aspect of
awesome.
it's amazing.
Yeah, I definitely think it's easy to get in a rut and feel sorry for yourself, but then as soon as you go to these events, specifically funerals,
When you're presenting the flag
you
to
just
the family
feel.
member.
No,
and-
you're just if you're having a bad day, you just feel selfish because the family just gave up so much. Their family members there, and you feel guilty about it because it's an honor to be there to be able to support those events.
Very humbling.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
So we've talked about impact on families, those more meaningful funeral honor experiences. We'll pivot a little bit. What has been a memorable or fun CU style event? Something that you're like, oh, this is really cool that I got to do this. We'll bring the mood up a
Cook,
bit.
do you want to?
Sure. So mine was actually so we did the commissioning of the USS Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah.
Oh wow.
And that one was the most memorable for me because so at that point I had done color guards, I had done casket team, I had done firing party, protocol, I've done caisson. I had never done the salute battery. So that was the first mission, actually only mission, that I was able to do the salute battery. So we got to drive up the howitzers to somewhere up by South Bend.
Great Lakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot. I don't know. This had been a few years ago. I don't remember. But we drove up there and then we staged the howitzers and stayed the night up there. And then we actually got to fire the salute battery. Like, it was so cool.
That's pretty cool.
When I had never been able to be a part of that, and I'd always wanted to do it. So
Sergeant Stevens does not let me near the cannons for some reason. I'm not sure
No.
what I did, but I am not allowed
Yeah.
near any cannons.
I wasn't allowed to either until that one. And
So-
it's the only one.
Yeah, the one thing we haven't really talked about is us and Air Force. We typically do a lot of color guards together, but we
Yeah.
do joint service color
Yeah,
guards,
you-
and we really haven't talked about that. A lot of the May
Yeah.
activities are joint service color guards. The national championship game last year was a joint service color guard, and that's all branches, including Space Force. That they will typically come in, and like I said, that's opportunities for them to bring their families. And those are some usually bigger events. Like for me, May was a baptism, but just for me.
Right.
Like, May is like for me. May is. I mean, I work for basically PAO the entire time, and
Our friends at PAO.
I just do what I'm told, if you know what I mean. And so, but
No,
it is
we
what
have
it
no
is because
experience with
there's a
that at
ton
all.
of there's just a ton of stuff that goes on during May, like the mini marathon leading up to the 500. Then even after like everyone's recovering from the 500, like we're at Crown Hill the next day doing a funeral or a memorial service. So that was my biggest takeaway opportunity wise was to see how everything in May played out. Yes, being at the 500 and seeing, movie stars and country
cool.
singers. It was cool.
Like,
That's your most memorable moment. Then it sounds like
No.
is the month of May.
The month of May, the whole May, all May. Like
That's-
I've been through it now, so I kind of mentally prepare myself. I'm taking some vacation before May.
Before
but
and after.
I know when May hits, it's going to be every single day.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun though.
Have you had similar experiences? What was your most memorable experience in the ceremonial unit?
I work a lot of like the events. I would say,
Come
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Talk
The
about
anvil was
talk about the anvil.
the best one. I got to hit the anvil at the Colts game,
Oh.
which was really fun. I'm normally like doing the detail for the national anthem, obviously at the beginning. So I never even knew that the anvil was like a thing, because I was always like in the background waiting for the national anthem.
Yeah.
But when they had asked us, I was like, yeah, sure. And it was actually really cool. It was awesome. They put my name on the big screen. I like got the game started. It was amazing. He makes fun of me. I think it's because
No,
he's jealous.
I remind her.
I think he's just jealous.
I'm probably
He's jealous.
but-
For those of us that don't watch sports, not saying that would be me, but what is the anvil?
It's like a
Well, you know what an anvil
Like an
you know what an
anvil.
anvil is, right?
It's like you know what an anvil is?
Of course. It's not for me. It's for people who may not watch sports.
Oh, okay.
But the Colts have like an anvil off to the side at the stadium, and then they have somebody each game. They will hit it with like a sledgehammer, pretty much, and
That's
get the
cool.
crowd going
It's like a
right
hype thing.
before the
That's
game.
awesome.
Yeah,
you
it
do
was
know
really
what
fun.
an anvil is. I feel
I
like
know
you
exactly.
didn't actually answer that
Don't ask me
question.
to draw an anvil, but I know what one is. We've covered
Yes.
a lot of topics.
Yes, absolutely.
If anyone's listening to this podcast and they want to get more involved and support Funeral Honors or CU, what's the best route?
I would say, talk to any of us, anybody, or talk.
How do they get a
to-
hold of you?
Oh, my.
So the banners currently I mean, I can always give out our phone number, but it's just I don't know if that's appropriate for.
Is your information in the National Guard app?
So,
Because we've had a few people
on
plug the app, and so
The National Guard app, yes. We also those have access to the SharePoint. I have an entire SharePoint page dedicated to Ceremonial Unit and Funeral Honors. We all work at Tyndall Armory. A lot of it's by word of mouth, but usually people will reach out to me, or people will
Like
Yeah.
put me in contact with whoever, and then we will get them the application and have that conversation about like, hey, can we?
Maybe nationalguard.in.gov. Would that be a good start, you think?
It is, but
Search for ceremonial unit,
we
or
need to.
yeah.
But we need the funny thing about that is the phone number's not right on that.
okay.
So there's some things that need to be updated on there.
Sure. I bet you we can put a link to it actually in the video.
In the video,
Really?
We have a really good director and producer.
Wow, that's good. Technology is amazing.
I will ask one last question. If you could offer one piece of advice to someone that's thinking about joining the military, what would it be?
Joining the military?
Joining the military.
I will tell you. This is a piece of advice / quick story. When 18-year-old Josh Stevens, my dad would tell me and my brother, "You guys are idiots. You need to join the military." I'm like, "Dad, I'm 18. I'm smarter than you." Well, then, fast forward when I was 21, my dad passed away abruptly, and then I joined the military. And I think I was like 3 weeks into basic, and I'm like, I think I should listen to my dad more. He was really smart. And ever since then, I've done so many awesome things in the military, and so many things that have been afforded to me just because I've been in the military.
Yeah.
I wouldn't dismiss it. I would at least tell people, if you're thinking about it, ask questions, talk to a person you may know in the
Trusted
military.
person, yeah.
If you don't want to talk to a recruiter, talk to somebody, then they can put you in touch with a
Yeah.
recruiter. But so many awesome experiences in the military for me. Yeah, there's bad days, but you have bad days at work too.
Absolutely.
Other places at work.
Yeah, my personal experience, I joined when I was 17, and I think that's crazy. Now looking back, I'm like, wow, I just like signed my life away. Just like, yep, why not? 6 years. But my advice would be, if you're thinking about it, just do it. I mean, why not? I wanted to join in a different career field and ended up joining in IT, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I have learned so much. I've gotten certifications, so many benefits. I have a full-time job. I get to travel. It's amazing.
That's cool. Staff Sergeant Cook, how about yourself?
So I also joined at 17.
Oh, wow.
And
we were all late.
I was 23, 22, 23 when I joined. So
I've now had 10 years in, and I've done all kinds of things. I mean, I've been to Japan, been to Europe. I've done all kinds of different events with the ceremonial unit, military funeral honors. I mean, I've been full time now for almost 7 years of the 10 years. I mean, my wife tells me all the time, if you get out of the military, you're going to have an identity crisis. So I literally don't know what I would do without the military. And when I was 17, like, I really didn't know what I was going to do. And so I kind of just joined and was like, well, we'll see how this goes. And here I am. So, I mean, if you're thinking about it, like they both said, at least give it a try or talk to somebody you trust and get a real feel for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great advice.
That's really good. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the Lima Charlie podcast. We definitely appreciate you sharing these stories about the ceremonial unit, the funeral honors, and kind of your guys' experiences here in the military.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
No problem. Lima Charlie out.